And then it is by virtue of them providing that resource, which they know you would need at that point, that then lifts you up back into the spirit realm.
And the paradox that you said, Ed, that like logically, as long as you're physical, you can never truly enter the realm of the spiritual. You, Japa, are saying, I'm asking you to correct me if I'm wrong. That's what you said?
That's what I'm saying.
Then you are saying, but if you develop a new sense organ, which we call the soul, you can.
That within the capacity, in the soul, there is a capacity to develop a new sense organ.
If you develop, within your soul.
That's the value of the soul. In the soul, not in the physical realm, there is no capacity in the physical. There's no way to connect. There's a possibility, but there is a capacity within the soul to develop an organ that can perceive that. But we keep telling the soul it's not of that nature, it's of the physical nature. And so it is limited to the capacities of the physical. But if we can remind the soul, no, you also have this inheritance, then the soul can find this new capacity, it can evolve an organ, which can then perceive in a continual way the nature of objects that are not the same as are physically predicted. And so that's exactly. I mean, you all have a clear articulation of exactly what I'm trying to bring here.
We do?
Now your questions seem to indicate that
you articulated.
That's hilarious.
Yes, you articulated it very well. And actually, I don't know that that's always the case. I mean, I give you kudos for actually going back and saying, "Is this what I understand?" That's hacking. And
hacking?
That's when you are going to, okay, I need to really. You took the kernel and said, is this how the seed unfolds?
You mean like computer hacking?
You unfold, yeah. I mean, you unfolded the seed out of your own being.
Well, I attempted it.
Exactly.
Go use this hacking metaphor again.
Yeah, you use that a lot because you're a computer guy. Hacking, I thought you meant like horseback riding.
Well, you know the reason I started using those because I saw a video of this 12-year-old boy who was a homeschooler, and it was a TED Talk, and he was talking about how in homeschooling that's exactly what he did. He would have an interest, and he would hack his way through, and by hacking he would touch all of these other curriculum content. What did he need to know mathematically to achieve his interest? What did he need to know about history? So he used that metaphor in that TED Talk, and I've been using it since then.
And people talk about life hacks. I'm seeing those memes. I'm like, first I was like, what? Because I also think of machetes. Because part of my growing up was in Guam, and machetes were a daily thing in Guam.
Right. And and I just saw another video about a 12-year-old girl that at 12 decided that she was going to build her own car that she would then have when she was 16 years old. She's 14 now, and she's been doing it. She's been hacking her way through the understanding of how to build this car from scratch.
That's pretty
12-year-old.
Cool. So that's what before our official class started, that's the kind of thing you're saying you want our students at our school to do more of.
To say, what's my interest, and say, I'm going to hack my way to that interest.
I'm going to get it. I'm going to get there. Come hell or high water.
And so you find the resources. You find the understandings you need. You yourself hack through it. When you meet a problem, you say, okay, the nature of this problem is this. I need math. I need this. I need history. What do I need? And then I go and I hack through it.
Thank God I never have been committed to a problem that required math.
So what happens next? Like I said, then of course these resources, if you are able to penetrate through, what your constitution suggests about these beings which are coming at you, and then you get their embrace, then the beings embracing you, as I said, at the astral body level, will allow you to be lifted into the spirit self. And the beings embracing you on the etheric body level and the intellectual soul, I call it, the energy is transmuted to lift you up to these next levels, to the spirit life level. And of course, in terms of our incarnation and our growth as incarnate beings, that's where we sort of end. When we move beyond this, we move really after death fully into the soul realm. I mean, we have been basically trying to come to a full expression of our sentient soul, intellectual soul, and consciousness soul. And by and which really is a relationship between our lower expressions and it. When we talk about the soul, we're talking about that activity by which we work out this relationship between our physical, our bodily expressions with the spiritual reality that in which we dwell. That's what we mean by the soul. I have my bodily expressions, I have the realm in which I dwell, and I'm working out the relationship with that. That's the soul activity. And when we are successful in working that relationship out, then we are lifted into a consciousness of the spirit realm, in the spirit, our spiritual capacities, a consciousness of our spiritual capacities. And we then ray back, of course. We are raying back now to the spirit realm. And so that's the description of the first, our growing and development. The next part of this book, of course, is to now talk about the soul realm, which you would enter in after death. And it's a sevenfold realm also. And in this sevenfold realm, we actually have to let go of all of the soul resources. Those resources cannot be taken into the spirit realm. And that's what...
After all that effort.
But we are left though with these spiritual resources,
which are make up for it, I hope.
Which are the seed that we the seed either of our liberation or the seed of what karmic resources the world we need to build for our next incarnation. Either one of those will be the case. Either we will have gained liberation as a result of this work, or we will have gained new understanding of reality that will take into the next life, and therefore meet other karmic challenges. And by overcoming those, maybe gain liberation. And this is the picture, of course, out of Anthroposophy and out of the East. Of course, the picture out of the West is that if you gain some relationship with the spiritual world and an understanding of it, then you, of course, go to heaven. You get to the point of these eternal truths, eternal morality, and eternal. But it's considered to be a little bit more of a journey in the East than in Anthroposophy. It's not just a journey of coming to being convinced about the spiritual world. There's work to do in the spiritual world as well to gain liberation. So in the Western Christian traditions, usually, are you convinced? They ask you the question, you say, yes, I am convinced. And by virtue of your confession and you're being convinced, therefore, and even in some traditions, you don't even have to be convinced because you can be baptized as an infant. And as long as you then don't morally violate that baptism, then you have gained your interest into heaven. That is not the case in Eastern tradition. There's spiritual work to do in the spiritual realm to gain liberation. And so you incarnate. But grace is incarnation. You will always get the opportunity. So you didn't get it done this time. You made a mistake. It's all right. Grace is. You get to do it again.
That makes me feel cynical. Lucky me.
Right. So but the opposite is true in most of the Western traditions, that you have a point that grace isn't abundant.
Yeah, it could be worse.
Grace isn't abundant.
You could be eternally damned to hell.
Right, exactly.
In some traditions, right.
But doesn't Steiner also say, I was trying to remember this, doesn't he say that you pay, if you don't reach that spiritual development, that you come back to the physical world and you actually have to atone, or you have to suffer for some of the bad
but if you use the word suffering, you have to meet...
You have to experience the pain, didn't he say that?
Well, I mean, yeah, to the same extent that we're experiencing the pain now.
Right.
It's not like necessarily, it's not a question of more intense pain.
But it does affect your behavior now. If you think about when you reincarnate, that you're going to have to kind of atone for how you behave now towards other people. Doesn't he say that, or never?
Yeah, he does say that atonement, though. Yeah. But if the question is, what does atonement mean?
Well,
that's the word.
If you hurt somebody, this specifically, I think I was told this specifically, if you hurt somebody in this life, you will be hurt in the same degree somehow in the next life.
Yeah,
that's because that raises your spiritual kind of development further, because you didn't achieve it in this life, so you have to go on.
And that's wrong in a lot of different ways. Okay. First, it's wrong in that, again, it's like, let's think about working with children. I have a child. Okay, you just hurt Tommy. I must hurt you, or you must get hurt in a similar way to atone. My point is a development of this person's capacity. I do what I don't try to compensate for the hurt. I try to say now what is necessary for this individual to move forward in the evolution of their own capacity, this child. And that is the point of the universe too. The point of the universe is not any balance of pain, but the evolution of all beings.
But sometimes, a lot of times, a ton of times, when you're learning the thing that you need to learn, it hurts.
Yes, exactly. And so if there's pain, that's why.
So the pain is an incidental. So atonement in that sense wouldn't be the exact same. You might suffer while you are atoning, but I think that Japa is saying, and my Christian tradition would also say, the suffering isn't the point.
Right.
The atonement is the important part.
Because it allows you to become reconnected. And the thing about it, if you suffer, it really depends and that suffering doesn't have to take place, because if you change your consciousness, you will still go through the same deed, but not experience it as suffering. You may then you may have a different relationship with that circumstance.
Well, that's that second chance.
And that would be perhaps under the category of grace with a capital G.
Right, exactly. And so you can still move forward. And actually, to the degree that you actually suffer would be probably to the degree that you end up actually creating new karma. Because you say, oh God, this hurts. I'm not going to put up with it. I'm going to get out of this some way. I'm going to throw you in the pit instead. Oh, well, guess what?
Or at least get you in the pit with.
Now you just got another lifetime of suffering.
This is bad. We stop with it.
So the thing is that you're supposed to get beyond. So I'm trying to nurture this child. I'm trying to make the child understand it's not a good thing to hit Tommy. Not that if you hit Tommy, he's going to punch you back.
Which he will, but never mind.
That's not my point there. That's not the lesson.
Oh.
So
my
anyway.
two children were such pigs to each other this morning. They were so mean to each other.
Yeah.
Turn that thing off. My brain got full.
Yeah.
So I was going